Welcome back. As we saw previously, a database can be used to store data. The data in the databases are stored in an object called table, and a database can have one or more tables. The data in the table is organized as rows and columns, which is very similar to how we store data in a spreadsheet. A database table also offers some important additional features over a spreadsheet. But having said that, most of you would be familiar with spreadsheets. So to make it easier to understand, let's start by looking at how the data is organized in a spreadsheet and see how that relates to a table in a database. This spreadsheet has a number of sheets, and we're now looking at a sheet called population, which contains the population of the top 10 most populous countries in the world. We have the name of the columns at the top, which are country and total population. We then have 10 rows of data with 2 columns each. The first column contains the name of the country, and the second column contains the total population in each of those countries. As you can see, I have formatted the first column country to be text, and the second one total population to be a number. A database table also organizes data in the same way. To keep it simple, let's exclude the data from the spreadsheet for the time being and focus on the properties of the sheet and map them to the properties of a database table. Each sheet name in a spreadsheet corresponds to a table name in a relational database. And column names in a spreadsheet are also called column names in a database table. But instead of column formats, they are referred to as data types in a database table. Unlike a spreadsheet, the data type in a table is defined at the time of table creation, and the data populated to the table must conform to the data type specified. For example, you can't define the data type of total population to be a number and then add text data into it. The database will reject any such data. Let's now see how to create an equivalent database table for this spreadsheet using SQL. In order to create the table, we need to use the create table statement in SQL. This is then followed by the name of the table, followed by column name and data type within parentheses. Please note that there is a blank space required between the column name and the data type. Also, if you have more than one column, like we do in this example, we can list the other column names and the data types separated by a comma. But the comma here is quite important, and it informs the database to expect another column in the list. Now that we understand the properties of the create table SQL statement, let's try and come up with the SQL statement required to create a table for the population data. As you know, we want to keep the table name as population, so I have replaced the table name with the word population. And we have 2 column names, country and total population. You may notice that I have added an underscore between total and population for the second column name. If you want to have spaces in the identifiers such as column name, you will have to quote them, but having spaces in identifiers is highly discouraged in most programming languages, including SQL. So please use underscores to make the names readable instead of using spaces. SQL offers a number of data types. We know the country is a string and the total population is a number. So I have used the equivalent data type for country as VARCHAR 50, which is a type of string, and total population as INT, which is the short form for integer. These data types could be new to you as we haven't talked about data types yet. We'll go through data types in detail in a later lesson, but briefly, VARCHAR stands for variable character, and VARCHAR 50 can hold up to 50 characters. And INT or int is the data type that can hold whole numbers such as population of a country. Finally, SQL uses semicolon as the termination character between statements. As this is the end of the SQL statement here, let's add the semicolon to terminate this statement. Running this SQL statement will create the table population with the columns and the data type specified. Please note that this is the most simple form of creating a table in a database. Databases offer a lot more properties that I'll slowly introduce in later lessons, but here I wanted you to get started as easily as possible. Let's now switch over to the database and start creating this table. Here we are in the SQL Studio, and let's create the table. As we discussed, we need to start the SQL statement with the keyword create table. This is then followed by the name of the table, which is population in our case. And then we need to specify the column details within brackets. So let me add a set of brackets here. And we want to specify the column details within the brackets. And the first column we've got is country. And the data type of the country we want to keep is VARCHAR 50. And at the end of this line, we need a comma because we've got another column in the list. And the second column is total population, and the data type of total population is integer, so that is INT. And that's everything we need within the create table statement. And we can now terminate the SQL statement with a semicolon. As we've completed writing the SQL statement, let's execute it and see whether the table gets created. As you can see in the status, this query has finished successfully. That means the table's created. That is great, but you might be wondering why I have part of the SQL statement written in uppercase and the others in lowercase. Also, when to use new line characters and spaces and things like that. And I'll take you through all of these in the next lesson. I'll see you then.